For it's a very, very familiar passage of scripture. Very, very familiar. We've read it in our leisure. We've heard it preached so many, many times. But I want to deal with it a little differently. The Gospel according to St. John chapter 4. And the word reads on this wise. And I'm reading from the King James Version, and then later on I'm going to switch over to the Amplified at one point, because I need to hopefully have you understand exactly what the Lord is saying to us tonight. Verse 1, when therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples, he left Judea and departed again into Galilee. And he must needs go through Samaria. And I need you to put a pen mark or a thumbtack or a paper clip or whatever you can at that verse. He must needs go through Samaria. Verse 5, then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well. And it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. The woman saith unto him, sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and the children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up unto everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Jesus said unto her, go call thy husband and come hither. Now here's the scripture and the part of the story that excites us. We get excited about this part of the story because Jesus starts to read her. And isn't it funny how we get excited when someone's being read and their business is put on Front Street? We kind of take the position, ooh, I'm so glad that's not me. Let me continue with this. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, thou hast well said, I have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not thy husband. The woman saith unto him, sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. And I need to stop there so far the scripture. I want us to keep in mind that, first of all, this is a Samaritan woman. Now, what is it about this woman? And this story is kind of strange, but you kind of got to go before it and look after it. Samaritan. The Samaritan, because she already said, look, the Jews have nothing to do with the Samaritans. Well, what is this thing about the Samaritans and the Jews? What is that really all about? Let's take a trip. Let's take a trip. Let's go back in the history of Samaria. Let's go see what this Jew versus the Samaritans thing is really all about. Turn, if you will, to Ezekiel chapter 23. Ezekiel chapter 23, starting at the 36th verse. Ezekiel chapter 23, starting at verse 36. The Lord said moreover unto me, Son of man, wilt thou judge Aholah, which is another name for Samaria, and Aholabah, which is another name for Jerusalem? Yea, declare unto them their abominations. They that have committed adultery, and blood is in their hands, and with their idols have they committed adultery, and have also caused their sons whom they bear unto me to pass for them through the fire, to devour them. Moreover, this they have done unto me. They have defiled my sanctuary in the same day, and have profaned my Sabbath. For when they had slain their children to their idols, then they came the same day into my sanctuary to profane it. And lo, thus have they done in the midst of mine house. And furthermore, that ye have sent for men to come from afar, unto whom a messenger was sent. And lo, they came, for whom thou didst wash themselves, painted thy eyes, and decked thyself with ornaments, and sat upon a stately bed, and a table prepared before it, whereupon thou hast set mine incense and mine oil. And a voice of a multitude being at ease was with her, and with the men of the common sort were brought Sabaeans from the wilderness, which put bracelets upon their hands and beautiful crowns upon their heads. Then I said unto her that was old in adulteries, will they now commit whoredoms with her, and she with them? Yet they went into her as they go into a woman that playeth the harlot. So went they into Aholah and into Aholabah, the lewd woman. This passage of scripture, the Samaritans, they just went crazy. They lost their minds. The Samaria, they just forgot about God, turned their back on God, and they wanted to do their own thing. They were making sacrifices, sacrificing children, passing them over fire to worship the idols they set up. They were doing all kinds of craziness, committing adultery, and just all kinds of madness, turning away, forgetting God, and God's right there telling them, look, this is what I need you to do. But they decided to do their own thing. All right, Samaria. Samaria. If you pick this apart, it says they commit adultery, murder, idolatry, sacrifice children in the fire, defile his sanctuary, profane his Sabbath, made alliances with other nations, committed idolatry and adultery, and worship to idols with other nations. And the one I want to really pull up is adultery with idols in worship. Adultery with idols in worship. Believe it or not, anything you prop up or erect and bow down to, you are now worshiping that. Anything that you take and put before God becomes an idol, and you begin to worship it. Once it becomes the front and God becomes the back, you have now committed idolatry. Anything, be it a good old pair of pumps or a nice vehicle, whatever it is idolatry. Doesn't matter. And God's a jealous God. He will have no other gods before him. No other. Now you're probably asking me, what does this have to do with this Samaritan woman? Well, go back to the scripture. Go back to John. Go back to John chapter 4. She says in the 19th verse, the woman said unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Now, leading up to this, we assume that this story is really about Jesus telling her about her business. But it really isn't. I want you to look at somebody and say, that's not what this is all about. Tell them again, that's not what this is all about. I told you to hold on to this, to the 4th verse where he said, and he must needs to go through Samaria. The reason Jesus had a need to go through Samaria was to set back in order worship. wasn't to meet this woman to read her. It was to go forth and undo